Right now, we're learning that early voting in Jefferson County continues at a record pace. Nearly 24,000 people have cast ballots in person these past 3 days, with more than 4,000 others mailing in their votes. But exactly who's eligible to vote by mail continues to create a lot of confusion. KFDM's Angel San Juan is investigating why this is happening. He joins us tonight with what he's learned. Angel.
Texas is one of only 16 states that requires voters to meet specific guidelines before they can request mail-in ballots. Having a disability is one of those reasons, but whether being vulnerable to COVID-19 should be considered a disability is hotly contested. As you're about to see, it's a debate that voters will likely settle themselves. It's one of the hottest drive-thrus in Southeast Texas. Hundreds coming up here, not to pick up Big Macs,
this is really official,
but to drop off mail-in ballots.
We have sent out over 9,700 mail ballots to voters that have requested mail ballots, and 85% of those have already been delivered. And they are really starting to turn them in. I'm probably say at least a good 15-20% have been returned back already.
Brenda Dalcour opted to take advantage of the drive-thru outside the Jefferson County Courthouse to deliver her mail-in ballot in person. Many voters preferring to do it themselves rather than relying on the Postal Service.
There you go.
County Clerk Carolyn Guidry says the majority of people requesting mail-in ballots are 65 and older. They're one of the few segments of the population in Texas who are eligible to vote by mail.
At that age, you just don't want to take a chance with your health, and that's what they've decided to do. This election is to vote by mail rather than in person.
At 77, Dalcour qualifies.
Of course, mine was age.
She could have been voting by mail for more than a decade, and yet this is her first time.
I was a little afraid of COVID, and so I thought, well, let me just take a chance on getting a mail-in ballot.
Texans with disabilities are allowed to mail in their votes, but does being more vulnerable to the effects of COVID-19 count as a disability? In May, the Texas Supreme Court ruled that lack of immunity to COVID is not a physical condition. Therefore, the risk of acquiring the virus does not meet the state's criteria. Still, the court left it to the voter to make the final decision.
A disability is what you deem to be your disability.
Southeast Texas State Representative Joe Desitel says voters don't have to provide documentation of their disabilities.
If I decide that I'm afraid because I have a pre-existing condition, that's my right and I can vote by mail. They don't have a test for that. Carolyn Guidry does not require to go and check on a person, get their medical records who chose to do that.
Local election officials like Guidry, who oversee the distribution of mail-in ballots, don't have that authority.
We're not even allowed to ask what the disability is. There's just a box marked on the application, and the voter is testifying that they do have a disability, whatever they deem the disability to be, and it's not for us to question.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says his office will prosecute people for voter fraud if they use a mail-in ballot in a matter he says is improper. It remains uncertain, though, if Paxton actually has the authority to prosecute voters who seek those ballots to avoid getting infected with the virus.
And I'm not saying they should lie, but there's if a healthy person, they're not going to worry about it. There's people who sincerely worry about getting coronavirus that want to vote by mail, and they should vote by mail.
Either way, judging by the turnout so far, there's not much keeping Jefferson County voters from casting their ballots. The deadline to request a mail-in ballot in Texas is Friday, October 23rd. In addition to being 65 and older or having a disability, you can also qualify to vote by mail if you will be out of the county on Election Day and during the period for early voting. Tiffany?